We have huge breaking news right now. Diddy has been convicted of 2 of the 5 criminal charges against him. This is a stunning verdict, one that I don't think many predicted. So he was convicted of 2 counts of transportation for prostitution, which carries a maximum sentence of 10 years in federal prison. But he was spared, not guilty on the 3 most serious charges, not guilty on the 2 counts of trafficking, and not guilty on the RICO charge, which all 3 would have been carried a possible life sentence and mandatory minimum time. The 2 charges he was convicted of don't have mandatory minimum prison time, which means that
Wow.
Diddy theoretically will serve some time on them. But he's not going away for the rest of his life. He's not going away for more than likely a few years, probably closer to 10 years, but who knows what the guidelines say. But this is a major win for Diddy, a major win for Diddy, because he has been spared of the most serious charges. Spread the word and follow along for all the news you need to know about. More to come.
Wow. Wow. And just to be clear, there were a lot of people who were calling this. I mean, let's be honest, the writing was sort of on the wall. If you weren't too emotionally attached to the stories that were being painted during this court case, you knew that this whole case lacked the evidence of the actual charges that they were trying to place on Diddy, especially when it came to trafficking and also that RICO charge. Listen, I was very honest when I covered this and said, I think Diddy's a sick man. And people would say, what has he done that's wrong? I'm like, come on, you've seen the videos. You've seen that Diddy had a dark past that borderlined on criminal. But when it came to the women he was dealing with, was he trafficking those women? I don't think they had the proof for that, right? I don't think they had the proof for the whole RICO case. And you guys could get a sense that this was happening. Let's check out a few of these comments. I'm sure people are shocked and crashing out here in the comment section. Top comment here says, so completely disappointing. Somebody else here says, our system is so broken. My heart goes out to all his victims and their families. Somebody else here added, so the jury was either paid off or threatened. There ain't no way. So that's the big thing that you're probably going to hear here going forward consistently. I'm sure you guys want to read more comments here. Somebody else here says, this is not justice. My heart hurts for the women and families who that monster hurt. The system is broken. Wow, sorry to the women, men, and families affected, so on and so forth. Here's when I started, because I'm not an attorney, here's where I started to actually sit down and think to myself, ooh, this might actually go in a direction that a lot of the people who've just been buying everything that they've been hearing and not actually thinking about the actual charges, this was going in a direction that would completely shock a lot of these people. And when I saw an attorney, right, when I saw attorneys covering this situation and pointing out that there was a lack of evidence, for example, this lady who goes by the name of Attorney Stephanie _ on TikTok, I realized, I was like, okay, Diddy might actually walk and avoid the worst of his charges.
Government overreach is real. I'm not going to talk about the Diddy case. I'm not going to highlight the Diddy case. I just want people to understand, man, like really, government overreach is real. And I'm hearing the evidence. I'm hearing it secondhand. I'm not in there. You're not in there. So you don't know. And so the bottom line is this: he a freak. And I had this discussion with my daughter, one of my daughters said, when I made a comment that she overheard, she said, so you're supporting him? You don't think that he needs to go to prison? He's a horrible person. He's a horrible person. I said to her, look, everybody has their opinions.
Right.
The bottom line is I'm not saying anything about whether or not this man deserves to go to prison. What I am saying is that there is law. And I don't know of any law that says that you can't be freaky. Whatever's going to happen in his case is what's going to happen. But the overreach is what I have a problem with. And
by the way, you guys should know that this video was published before the final verdict was announced.
This is my opinion and nobody else's opinion. When you interpret the law from a prosecution standpoint in a manner where you are now criminalizing personal, intimate acts with consenting adults, that's an issue. And I hear people that say, well, you're not consenting if you are, I want to be a rising star and I want him to like me so that I can be a rising star. And I did these things because I wanted him to like me because I wanted to be able to be a singer and all this other stuff. Government overreach. We need to be concerned about that.
All right. So That is a good point. The loose definition surrounding trafficking is something that we see in many cases where they'll try to say anybody. You know, at some point, people are thinking, okay, so if you fly any woman over for the promise of you paying her in exchange for her sleeping with you, you know, and maybe you're not even giving her any money. Maybe you're just showing her a good time, but she knows she's going to get something. People wanted to classify that in the category of trafficking. And if that's true, the amount of people who would fall within those blurred lines would be literally ridiculous. It wouldn't just be famous people, it would be any man out here who's flying women or agreeing, right? Consenting to doing anything freaky. Final video here. Let's get into it.
Hey, Attorney Stephanie, I see what you're saying, but some of the stuff that Diddy did was really bad. Don't you think that he should go to prison for that?
Now, I ain't saying he ain't a mofo. I'm just saying that is being a mofo against the law? Okay, let me give you a situation. I had a client and we had a horrible case, really bad case. And you know, the dude was pretty bad. I mean, bad. I mean, there's no ifs, ands, and buts about the bad. You know, in my presentation to the jury, we had to acknowledge that there were some negative and bad things that were going on with my client's activity and his conduct. But the bottom line is that's not what he's on trial for. If he was on trial for being an asshole, yeah, he'd be guilty. If he was on trial for being a mofo, guilty. If he was on trial for being a user, guilty. If he was on trial for being an abuser, guilty. When you take in consideration what the actual crime is, and you cloud that with all the bad stuff that the person does, that's an injustice. And I understand that people's like, you know what, you get them how you get them. Well, there's an avenue for domestic. The avenue for domestic is not in federal court. The avenue for domestic is in state court. So
Right.
suppose I decide that I don't like you and I don't like how you treat people, and you treat people horribly, and you're the worst person ever. And I want you to go to prison for being a demon and a devil. And a prosecutor decides to charge you with whatever that has nothing to do with what you did, but only to do with how you treat people. Black and brown people better worry about that.
All right, so here we have a few comments. Comment here says, this is just my opinion, by the way. Well, she ended up being right. This person says she's 1,000% correct. If this flies a lot of people in trouble, she responded back and says, I just want us to think critically. Here's somebody else who says he's a freak. Somebody else here added, this is ridiculous. Just free Diddy. Another person who says they overcharged him. I see assault and soliciting prostitution, but there is absolutely no RICO. And someone else here says they brought the wrong charges. So, you know, this news just came out. I mean, within the last hour or so, people are still reacting to this. I'm sure it's going to be an interesting time here online as we see what people think. Of course, guys, I'm curious to know what you think. Leave your comments down below. Appreciate you for checking out yet another episode of The Coffee Pod. Did you expect this? Did you not expect this? Let me know. Till next time, I'm out. Peace. Hey, guys, as always, I appreciate you for checking out yet another episode of The Coffee Pod. To my currently engaged or soon-to-be married men, if you need a prenup and would like a guide that shows you how to get a solid and legally binding prenuptial agreement, hit the link pinned to the top of the comment section and access your guide at fathershaverights.com today.